Okay, we're ready to start. I have to admit that I am a little nervous recording this video simply because I'll be talking about something quite personal and private to me. I mean, the closest friends in my life know about this story, but I wanted to really badly make this video simply because when this happened to me, I had no idea what it was or why it was happening. And the more I educated myself through the experience, the more I realized that I didn't know everything I needed to know about birth control. And sorry if I'm sounding really cryptic about this, but I truly want to tell you the story from beginning to end so that you can make your own conclusions and tell me what you think about it in case you know something that I perhaps don't know about. If you're one of my returning viewers, welcome back. But if you're new to my channel, let me tell you a little bit about me and who I am and what this video is going to be about. First things first is that my name is Lily Smith and I'm fairly new to the YouTube community. I started uploading videos here about 3 months ago and they're mostly centered around travel and my lifestyle. Me and my husband love going on local adventures and trips. And we've also traveled to some international destinations. So that is where we want this channel to go. This video is very different from what I just explained to you, considering it has absolutely nothing to do with travel and is more centered around health and birth control. That's enough of an introduction. Let's get the story started, and let me tell you how at 26 years old I suffer from a pulmonary embolism. So my story starts in November of 2021. I was 26 years old at the time, and to describe myself from a healthy standpoint of view, I was a bit overweight. I was really trying to get back into fitness. I've always been a little bit overweight, so I've always taken really seriously going to the gym and attempting to have a healthy lifestyle. Obviously, failing more than succeeding, but all of this to say that I've always been very health conscious. It was around this time that I decided to enroll at Orange Fitness. If you are not familiarized with Orange Fitness, it is basically a chain of gyms that offer 1-hour classes focusing on either strength or endurance or power through treadmill exercises. They have rowing machines, and then you get to also do some weightlifting. And so that was my way to kickstart the upcoming year. It was already November time frame, right? So I'm like, I only have a few more months to make the most out of 2021. So I enrolled at Orange Fitness, and let me tell you, the first few classes were completely brutal. Like, I was dying 5 minutes into the class, but I trusted within myself that the more I would go, the better I would get, the better my endurance and stamina, right? That's what I would tell myself. That's not what happened. Each time I went, I would see myself performing worse and worse. And the first thing that I noticed was my breath. I was having real severe shortness of breath while taking this workout classes. It got to the point where we were weightlifting, right? There was a class where I went for weightlifting, and I took very non-challenging weights. Like, I'm talking about like a 15-pound dumbbell or a 10-pound dumbbell. And granted, like, I have experience weightlifting, so I am capable of doing a lot more weight than that. But even through a simple circuit of strength training with this really low weight dumbbells, I had to stop midway each single time to catch my breath. That was the first time, or the first sign, that I knew something was perhaps not okay with me: shortness of breath. Ultimately, it continued to be the shortness of breath that really started to ring warning bells within me, because it progressed from, being in the middle of a workout and not being able to breathe to having a conversation with someone and having to stop myself mid-sentence to catch my breath. This is when, people around me started noticing, and, we're starting to tell me or express to me that they thought something was off because it wasn't normal, that I would go one flight of stairs and be extremely out of breath, or that I would be in the middle of a sentence and wouldn't be able to finish because I don't have enough air in me. I finally decided in November to take matters into action, right? Like, I think that was the point where I was like, you know, let's do something. And I feel like as adults, we always think it's just gonna go away, or it's not as serious, or, you know, what could it possibly be, right? I'm being dramatic. But I decided to put those thoughts aside, and I reached out to my primary care physician. And when I explained to him via phone, we had one of those telephone appointments. When I explained to him my symptoms, he immediately told me to go to the emergency room because I could be experiencing one of two things. I could either be developing an asthma attack and have to get oxygen in the emergency room, or I could be suffering from blood clots in my lungs, which would be the worst of the two options, and I would have to get treated immediately. Scary when someone tells you you may have blood clots in your body, in your lungs. So, you know, I tried to compose myself as fast as I could, and I texted my group chat that I have with my two best friends explaining what was happening. And thankfully, I just need some tea, guys. Thankfully, one of them lives a short 7-minute drive from my house. So I go in my car, I go pick her up, and we go into the emergency room. In 2021, of course, it's the mists of COVID. And due to that, my friend could not pass into the emergency room with me. She essentially drove me there and dropped me off, and then I was left to figure out what was happening on my own while they did all the exams that they tend to do in the emergency room. And I'm talking about electrocardiograms. They also did some blood sampling in me, and, you know, they sent some nurse practitioners to come speak to me and ask what the situation was. So I painted the entire picture to them, and ultimately, let me see how I can best explain this. There is a test that they can perform on your blood sample where they test specific protein, and if the levels of this protein come up high enough, then it can indicate that you have some sort of heart blockage or that your blood is prone to clogging. And I believe it was this result that showed them that my levels were a bit too high to comfort, and it prompted my doctor at the emergency room to perform a CT scan, which would essentially provide a very clear picture of my body and its organs, and it would just allow him to see in what state my body was. So at this point, thankfully, I had my husband. Oh my God, he wasn't my husband. At this point, I had my boyfriend arrive to the emergency room. I had called him earlier and told him the entire situation, so he left work and came to be with me in the emergency. And because he was my partner, they allowed him in, and since they were able to already rule out that I did not have COVID, there wasn't that fear of infection in the room anymore, so I could have someone there with me, thankfully. Because once they performed this CT scan, the minutes felt like hours. We waited in the bed for like 45 minutes waiting on these results. We kept being like, there's no way that you have a blood clot. Like, that sounds unreal. It's probably related to something different. Who knows? Maybe you're having asthma, but whatever. So finally, almost an hour later, the ER emergency room doctor that I was assigned to, comes rushing into the room and tells me, I have good news and I have bad news for you. He goes, the good news is that we have a diagnostic for you. We know exactly what you are experiencing. So I look at my boyfriend and I'm like, that's great news. What do I have? And then he explains to me that I am experiencing a pulmonary embolism, a rather large embolism at that, and that I have to be hospitalized for the next few days to see how I progress. And when someone delivers something like that to you, I think you automatically go in a little bit state of shock, because one, what the heck is a pulmonary embolism? Speak English to me. Like, what is this? So I don't really want to butcher this for you guys. Let me explain what a pulmonary embolism is. A pulmonary embolism is when one or more arteries in your lungs are blocked by blood clots. He proceeds to show me my CT scan results, and I can quite see the arteries in my lungs, and I can see the blockage that there is on them. And I have this in most arteries in the center of my lungs. And so it's not just one artery. I have a lot more than just one. And it is due to this that I was feeling intense chest pain and shortness of breath. So once the doctor discussed with me my diagnostic, they immediately put me on heparin, which is known as a very strong anticoagulant. And that is where my treatment started. I received heparin for the next few hours, and in the emergency room they made the arrangements to bring me up to a bedroom, and of course that all took some time, but ultimately I was admitted to the hospital, and I was told that the next morning I was going to have specialists come over and talk to me and explain how we were going to proceed after all the blood testing they were going to perform that evening. And let me tell you, that was no joke. The amount of blood samples that were taken out of me were ridiculous. I mean, they were testing for anything and everything to understand why I was having such a severe embolism at the very young age of 26. So long story short, the next day I have the specialists come visit me and explain to me what's happening. They tell me that thankfully the blood clots are not in a location that really pose a risk. So with the correct treatment, they can see how my body reacts, and hopefully by taking oral medication, I'm able to dissolve these blood clots. And so that is where my story with Eliquis, a very popular brand of anticoagulant, starts. I was beginning with a very high dose of Eliquis, and then after, I believe, 7 days, I decreased the dose and just took 2 pills per day for a duration of 6 months. And so this is the part where I link birth control to my pulmonary embolism, because it was at the hospital visit after all those tests were performed on me that my specialist explained to me that it was my birth control pill that was causing this blood clotting in my body. Something I was not aware of when I started taking birth control was the fact that taking oral contraceptive actually increases your risk of developing blood clots in your body by 3-folds. And while this does not happen regularly, it can happen to women due to a variety of reasons, such as age, the amount of hormones that your birth control pill provides to your body, and what brand of pill you're taking. Honestly, I cannot believe that for years, since I was 18, 19, I started my birth control pill journey until 26. I could not believe that I was constantly giving my body something that it was fighting against. And I would never have known unless these signs started appearing in my body. And from what I can tell, it was brewing up inside me due to the number of clots that I had in my arteries. It tells me that it's not something that happened overnight. It just now was adding up to be so much that my body could no longer fight it, and my lungs were just at capacity. Some other things that preceded the months after my diagnosis was meeting with a hematologist. And a hematologist is essentially a specialist doctor that studies blood-related conditions. And he produced a lot more blood tests and did a lot more studies with me just to make sure that this was not a genetic condition and it was not something that was in my family and not just showing up on me. That ended up being discarded. It did not show up in my test results. So we knew it couldn't be that. And it was indeed birth control. That's his conclusion at the end of the day as well. My treatment consisted of taking Eliquis for 6 months, and then at 6 months mark I would do another CT scan just to see the progress in my body and see if I had any blood clots remaining in me. And I'm happy to report that in April of 2022 I did that CT scan and it came out showing great progress in my body and almost no residual blood clots. So at that point I was given the choice to come off Eliquis or remain on Eliquis, and I actually decided to, stop taking the medication, mainly because I had not gone back to the pill. Since I was no longer able to take the pill that I had been known for taking the past 8 or so years, I was given a list of other birth control options that would be adequate for me with my condition. As it was explained to me, birth control pills, even though they are low hormone dosage, have 2 components to them: estrogen and progestin. And it is specifically estrogen that increases your body's ability to make your blood clot. My OBGYN pitched to me an IUD called Kylena, which had no estrogen dosage in it. It was just progestin, and it was a very low dosage of progestin. So I should have been in the clear. And let me tell you, a lot of people are real big fans of the IUDs. My friends, a lot of them are fans of IUDs, and that's why I decided to go with that route after my whole ordeal with the pill. If you do not know what an IUD is, it is essentially a T-shaped device that gets inserted into your uterus, and it's able to protect you from pregnancy, essentially. IUDs are known for being up to 99% effective, and the procedure to get it in is rather easy. It takes less than 15 minutes, although it can hurt at times. My experience was simply some intense cramping for an hour or so, and then I was fine for a very long time. It does take some time for your body to adjust with the period, but that's like any other birth control method that you take, right? Like once you introduce hormones into your body, it takes some time for, your body to understand what's even happening. I would say that the experience was seamless. I was not really feeling any side effects, at least not at the beginning. But it wasn't until a few weeks later that I started to see some really negative effects that I did not like. The first thing that happened to me was debilitating migraines. And I'm talking about, I am hanging out with friends, outdoors, having a great time, and all of a sudden I get a small headache that within 15 minutes escalates to an extreme migraine that causes me to throw up. This happens to me at the beginning of every period for various months throughout the year. The second thing that unfortunately happened immediately after getting on the IUD is the fact that I gained 15 pounds within 2 months. And I'm talking like this. The weight just started coming on me. I could be looking at bread and I suddenly gained 5 pounds. Dramatic. Obviously that's not what happened, guys, but I was not changing my diet much. I did not really change my routine. I was being physically active and eating normal. Not control and not on a diet form, but just my normal eating routine that somehow caused my weight to fluctuate 15 pounds more, and it has been extremely difficult for me to lose them. So yeah, I'll be honest, I went a few months dealing with these migraines, dealing with my weight gain, and it wasn't until right after my wedding, which happened in September of 2023, that I finally decided enough was enough, and I decided to officially terminate my relationship with birth control. I hate birth control. I can now freely say that. the things that he did to me unknowingly, I will never forgive it for that. And I am grateful that birth control allowed me to take care of myself and avoided pregnancies and regulated my period, control my hormones. There is, of course, lots of benefits to birth control. But for me personally, I think, or at least I have come to learn, that there are other ways that I can take care of my body without inserting external things and external hormones and things like that. So I want to finish this video by telling you what I am now currently doing as a birth control, which does not involve any implant, it does not involve no IUD, it does not involve pills, definitely no pills. It simply involves my phone and a ring. This is my Oura Ring. And I'm curious to know if you've heard about Oura, because one of my friends told me about it and suddenly the word started spreading like wildfire among my girly community. And now I see so many girls wearing either the silver or gold rings on their hands, and it makes me so happy. So I finally decided to purchase one after a lot of thought, because I will not lie, Oura is rather expensive. It ranges from $350 to about $550 US dollars. So it is rather a big purchase, and once you have the ring, you'll have to pay for a monthly subscription to their app, which allows you to monitor so many things in your body, and I'll explain those in a second. But I've been having this device now for about a month, and I cannot tell you how much I really love it.
Let me quickly walk you through the Oura application that you download once you receive your ring in the mail. This is the main page to the app, and it right away tells you some of the most important parameters that the ring tracks for you. And that's starting with your readiness score. It tells me how ready I am to conquer the day. It also tracks for me my sleep score, and it essentially tells me how good of a night of sleep that I had the previous evening. Many other things, such as the stress that I had throughout the day, and like an Apple Watch, it also tracks my activity goals, so how many calories I'm burning through the day, how many steps I've taken, and my heart rate, of course. And another really important parameter that the ring tracks for you is your temperature, which will ultimately link to another application called Natural Cycles. And Natural Cycles is another application that you're able to link with your Oura Ring. And essentially, it tracks the days that you're fertile versus not. Here you can see my own personalized calendar, and essentially on days where you see a red mark, it says that I need to use protection, or else I am at risk of falling pregnant. But on green days, I'm able to do as I wish. To be clear, you are able to use Natural Cycles even if you do not have an Oura Ring. I believe Apple Watches as well take your temperature, or you can take your own temperature with a thermometer and use the app.
It takes about 3 months for the ring to be able to capture enough data to accurately tell you about your cycle and your body and your fertile days versus not. So I am still on that period of time of learning about my body and taking daily biometrics. But once that is all done, I can for sure come out here and tell you how my experience with the ring and contraceptive and natural contraceptive goes. But so far, so good. No babies over here, which is kind of like the goal for the immediate future. Overall, guys, I hope you found this video even a little bit informative, because that is my main goal by making this, is to inform you who may be considering birth control or maybe looking into different options about the risks and positive things that there are about different birth control methods. Of course, I haven't tried them all. There's so many options out there. I simply can limit myself to the fact that I took birth control pills and it had an adverse reaction on me, and I had an IUD on me for a period of almost 2 years, and the same thing happened. So that's enough trial and error for me. I think the natural route is the way to go. But if you have had an experience related to birth control pills, the IUD, or just simply naturally tracking your periods in order to determine when you can get pregnant or not, I'm more than interested on hearing about it. So yeah, that's all. Thank you so much for watching. If you are a woman that enjoys travel, adventure, and just like normal lifestyle things, come over to my channel and I'll be uploading videos regularly every week, hopefully. And that is it. I wish you all a very happy week and stay safe and healthy out there.